Welcome! This week I will go over the readings for week 4, describing the wide variety of research methods available to the fields of negotiation, conflict resolution, and peace building. There are literally hundreds of different research methods that could be applied to negotiation, conflict resolution, and peace building. During this lecture, I will go over a few of them. Bullens and others at the University of Ghent wrote a working paper on research methods in negotiations, 1965 through 2004. The authors analyzed 941 peer-reviewed negotiation articles published between 1965 and 2004. They documented a trend in research methods, statistical analysis, and the use of multiple sources towards greater sophistication. The purpose of their article was first to give an overview of the shortcomings in negotiations research, second, to identify the changes in research methods, third, to provide recommendations for future research methodologies. Table 1, which is displayed on the screen, shows the frequency and variety of negotiations research methods they found, which included theoretical articles, case studies, interviews, observations, laboratory experiments, experimental simulations, field studies, computer simulations, meta-analysis, and sample surveys. The most frequent of the group was laboratory experiments. The authors had a matrix showing the type of strategy by the context of negotiation. They focused on particular focal points of negotiation, such as negotiator personality, gender differences, cross-cultural issues, emotions, ethics, communications, and third-party influences. Their coding schemes broke down the populations sampled for the studies. The authors found that most of the subjects, over 70% of the research, were students. They found that relatively few, or less than 6% of the research subjects, were professional negotiators or managers. The article has an extensive list of journals that have published negotiation research. This article provided an overview of the variety of research methods used in peer-reviewed articles about negotiation. The articles in Carnival and Dedru's Methods of Negotiation Research show an even greater variety of methods, including ethnographic approaches, problem-solving workshops, and comparative case studies. The ethnographic researchers look at behaviors as they occur in the whole context rather than just looking at a few isolated experimental variables. According to Friedman, an ethnographic approach was used by Walton and McKersey to develop 4 dimensions of labor management negotiations. These 4 dimensions are integrative bargaining, distributive bargaining, attitudinal restructuring, and intra-organizational bargaining. Fisher describes a problem-solving workshop as a method of research which involves bringing together unofficial but influential constituents of a party involved in the conflict. The facilitators initiate discussions which analyze the conflicts and generates options for de-escalation and resolution. Fisher describes the problem-solving workshop as both a conflict resolution process and a method of action research. Zartman describes how to take case studies, which begin with a single conflict story or resolution process and comparing it with similar case studies to answer specific research questions. According to Zartman, quote, comparative case studies like at the crossroads of reality and theory, they present their evidence through the eyes of a knowledgeable specialist, and they test it against the hypothetical constructs of a creative conceptualist, unquote. Zartman describes the methodological challenges of taking many cases from multiple authors and combining them to answer a research question or fit it into a theory. The methods of negotiation research shows a wide variety of research methods that can be used to gather information specifically about negotiations and generally about other conflict resolution processes. The next set of research text, which includes Sherlock and then Comfort's book, focused on outcomes-based evaluations. Sherlock defines outcomes-based evaluations as a type of evaluation that uses the person and organization reference outcomes to determine current and desired outcomes and their use, the extent to which a program meets its goals and objectives, and whether a program makes a difference. Sherlock shows that outcomes-based evaluations are a cyclical process. He provides many different examples of research methods that could be used to measure the outcomes of a conflict resolution process, such as performance report cards, satisfaction surveys, and quality of resolution indicators. The reason I selected Comfort's outcome evaluation is the rich table, which is table 7.1, that spreads from pages 134 through page 137. On this table, Comfort contrasts the advantages and disadvantages of different methods of evaluations. Even though this book focuses on evaluation research, Comfort's contrast shows the limitations of research and evaluations methods that may be used in NCRP research. In Ruggs, The Gentle Guide to Research Methods, the authors start out by going through their own unorthodox process of the cockroach, cabinet maker, and cartographer principles of selecting a research method. The cockroach principle involves deciding what research method would be most appropriate and what resources are necessary. The cabinet making technique looks at the type of data each method would produce, and the cartography technique involves grappling with what to do with the data. Overall, the Gentle Guide goes through the methods you will practice, including observations, interviews, and surveys, and some less frequent methods such as card sorts, laddering, and repertory grids. Schrick's book on rituals and symbol in peacebuilding gives many examples that deviate from only coding data that seems to fit into a rational decision-making process. Schrick classifies rituals as religious and secular, traditional and improvised, formal and informal, forming and transforming, constructive and destructive. She describes 3 case studies on rituals, including smudging ceremonies among First Nation natives in Canada, consciousness raising among a feminist group in the United States, and a Greek-Turkish Cypriot peace process workshop. Throughout this book, Schick describes peace-building rituals, and she openly discusses her research methods. During this lecture, I have gone over the variety of research methods in the assigned and optional reading for week 4. In future lectures, I will go into more detail about specific research methods such as observations, interviews, and questionnaires.